Welcome to another episode of Health Your Way podcast, where we discuss health issues ranging from physical, mental, emotional, as well as current facts. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how keeping a gratitude journal can aid with your depression and anxiety. Please allow me to introduce to you my guest today, Christina. She's a wife, mom of three, plant-based food fanatic, family nutrition practitioner, and a yoga teacher. She's also created the Intentional 10 podcast, blog, and journal to share her life-changing habits with others. I want to say thank you. It's been some time. We wanted to collaborate, so I'm really excited to have you here. So welcome, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to finally talk.
Yes, I think for our audience itself, one of the reasons why I asked you is because now I've been following your journal. I've been following your, your social media platform, and I find that you have something unique that a lot of people don't know, right? And I think people should be able, like, I've never really done anything about journaling, so having someone like you to educate me on how it can be beneficial is really good, and for the audience itself. So I really want to know if you feel comfortable. Can you share your story about what led to depression and anxiety to us, if you feel comfortable?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of my platform is that I just try to be open and honest about what I've been going through. So everybody's busy and has a lot going on in their lives. I think everyone can relate to that. And I had my own list of a bunch of things going on in my life. I have always sort of been an anxious person to begin with. It's sort of my baseline. But after I started having kids, I got more and more anxious about things in the world. And things just started to build up. So over the span of about a year and a half, we moved cities. We went from having one kid who was 19 months to having 3 kids under the age of 2 because we had twins that were a surprise. So when we moved cities, I had to change jobs, and I took a job in management. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't very good at my job. And that was stressful for me because, like you mentioned, I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I've always been really good at bedside care piece of things. And so now taking on a manager piece, I wasn't very good at that. And that was difficult for me. So we were buying a new house and getting settled in, and things were just crazy. And then on top of that, my daughter, one of the twins, got diagnosed with a really rare genetic condition, and it meant a sort of a lifetime of complications and disabilities. And so we were already stressed to the max with the busyness of our lifestyle, and because it was so crazy, I wasn't very happy. And then we threw that on top of it, and I just sort of crumbled. And what went from just being like a mental stressor started becoming physical. So I actually started developing stomach ulcers. I developed mouth ulcers. I couldn't talk for a week or 2. I couldn't eat anything. I lost a ton of weight. It was this whole big thing where all of a sudden, all of my stressors, my anxieties, the sadness that we were going through, that situational depression, it all just sort of, pushed me down. So we went through a lot, and I feel like so many people have a similar story. Everyone's is usually different, but something where they've got this and this and this and this going on so much, and people are overwhelmed by it. And I'm hoping that by sharing my story and what I went through and how I sort of came back up from that low point will help other people figure out how to redesign their lives before they get to that breaking point like I did.
That sounds a lot. Just listen to you talk. I felt every single part of your journey, and I'm really sorry to hear about your daughter. I just I think when you want healthy kids, and then when you hear that would impact, like if I had that would hurt me too, because you want the best for your kids, right?
Absolutely.
And I think for me it's more of okay, so we understand your background a bit, but why did you feel how did you lead to start writing your journals? I'm trying to understand how you felt, writing a gratitude journal helped you, or how did you know it was going to help you? I think that's really where I want to lead to this.
Sure. Well, at first I didn't.
Okay.
So I just sort of stumbled upon this. I've always liked the idea of journaling, but this concept of writing in your diary every night or something like that, it just didn't really fit me. I don't have a lot of patience to sit down and write a book about my thoughts. So it never really clicked, even though I thought it would be good. But then when I went through this period of time and I was pretty sick, a friend actually bought me this little short guided journal from Amazon, and she's,
Okay.
mailed it to me. And I also stumbled upon this woman who did these like biblical verses each morning online. And so I started listening to that, and that was sort of like a little audio inspiration. And then I had this little guided journal that my friend had given me, and I would just jot some little notes here and there. It was really short. And the combination of the two just really clicked for me for some reason. That just short little place to write my thoughts and a little inspiration with an audio format. I loved it, and I wanted to do more of it, and I just couldn't find anything like that out there that was simple but also guided, because sometimes I sit down and I just don't know where to start. And so I started doing it, and then I started doing the podcast so that I could create this for others, and we could take the journey together, and it just sort of took off from there. And so I just started doing it every day through that. And then my husband jumped on board at some point. I had done like a 30-day journal challenge where I would list some gratitudes out, and he decided to do that with me, and it just clicked. It was like a really good thing for us. So now we do it every morning. So it just sort of happened, but it's been transformational. And we started that, I started doing it like the fall of 2018.
Okay.
So, and he and I have been doing it together every morning since the fall of 2019.
So roughly, well, it's almost 2 years now you've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen a dramatic change over the past 2 years for yourself. Do you see that? Did it help in your relationship and your, well, I guess your relationship with your husband, as well as your relationship with your kids or your family or friends?
It really just helped everything, to be honest.
Okay.
So in the beginning, when it was just me, it definitely helped me to just sort out some of my feelings and my thoughts and some of the things that I was sad about. Writing the gratitudes helped me deal with a lot of the sadness around the stuff we were going through with my daughter and just how crazy our lives were. And so finding a moment to say, I'm glad that she's at least healthy, even if she can't talk or can't walk. And I'm glad that, we all got to sit and watch a movie together on the couch, little things like that. So that would help me cope with that. And then my stress and anxiety often was around the fact that we had so much going on. So I would write down in my journal sometimes like the things I needed to do, and I would prioritize them. And that sort of helped me get my mind around that. And then when my husband and I started doing it together, then it became like this bonding thing for us. And so we would each day we sit down, we write down our things, and we actually swap journals at the end.
Really?
And we read what's, the other person's thoughts. We read their gratitude. So, a lot of times I'll put him on my gratitude list, and so he'll read it, and that's, a nice little thing for him to see, vice versa. And then our goals too, like if his list of goals today is like get a workout in and I don't know, like take the dog for a walk, then I know that that's something that's important to him, and vice versa. So we get up early, we make our pot of coffee, we sip our coffee, and we journal together. And that's like our thing.
I think what I'm getting, I was going to ask you earlier, is that it seems like you guys have been able to improve your relationship because you now have communication and you have to be kind of open. I think a lot of people, when they're going through a situation like that with their family, you kind of close off and you don't really share your feelings. So what I'm getting from you is that, you kind of helped your relationship by doing this, that you guys had to force yourself to communicate and make sure that there's no misconception in the sense of what the other person feels and what the other person doesn't feel. Is that fair to say? Because that's what I'm getting from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same for myself, that I started to open my mind to what I was actually experiencing. Sometimes you're just angry and you don't know why. You're just sad and you don't know why. And I'm not saying that I'm having these major epiphanies in my journal, but sometimes I'm just writing like, today or yesterday sucked and I hope today's going to be a better day. And these simple things that just kind of like help you, understand how you're feeling and help you to start to come up from that. And then obviously the gratitudes alone have really helped us deal with the low times. And then going through, COVID and the pandemic, and just all these things that are happening in the world, that gratitude list keeps me grounded each morning.
And I see that, and I see in your face when you talk, because it looks like it was like a huge relief for you. And for people that are watching us or even listening to us, like maybe they don't feel comfortable writing their feelings. What are your suggestions or some tips that you can help them to feel comfortable, going over that hurdle?
Sure. Well, first of all, I actually wrote a blog post about how to start your gratitude
Nice.
and journaling practice. So I can
Okay.
send you the link later if you want to put it in your show notes or something, if anybody
Yeah.
wants sort of 5 quick tips. But the most important thing is to just start writing. You don't have to write how you're feeling. You can write, it's Monday and I'm going to work today. Like, you don't have to necessarily write anything specific, just whatever comes out, you can sort of word vomit on your page.
Okay.
So I even brought my journal here for those who are watching. You can see some days are really short and other days are like really long. So it
Okay.
just depends. You just throw whatever on the page. And then if you're really not comfortable with that, the most important thing that I found is to at least get out those 3 gratitudes and make yourself do 3. Because if you feel like, gee, everything sucks and I have nothing to be grateful for, I promise you, if you find those 3 things, you'll start to realize like, oh, okay, I do have some good things going on.
Oh, I like that. So that's some tips that you can help people that, if they're interested, you said start with just 3 things, make it very simple. Don't overcomplicate it and just get a book or somewhere and just start. That's the
Yeah,
first step, really.
absolutely. And if you start making it a habit and doing it regularly, even if you're just writing down, bullet point 1, 2, 3 each day, eventually it'll start to grow and you'll start to think of more things to say. And my gratitude list has gone from just 3 things each day to sometimes I have 5 or 6 things on my list. So it's a habit. It's not something that you're going to just do today and like poof, you're going to feel better. It's something that you have to build up and practice and do over and over. But I do promise that you will start to notice the benefits if you do it regularly.
I can understand that because a lot of people think negative, even though when they're going through certain like bad experience, they don't see the good in anything in life. So what you mentioned is, if you write down something that like you're happy about or you're grateful for, like waking up, having your life, having your 2 legs, like after a while, making that conscious effort to be grateful for things that you already have, and does help you understand and change your mindset of what's around you. And I can see that just talking to you, or because usually people are so linear, they don't think outside the box. So just having this conversation with you, I can see that for myself. I think for a lot of people that are interested in learning more about what you offer, what your platform, or what the journaling works, and what is the best source to reach out to you. Like, are you on social? I know you're on Instagram because I follow you, but is there anything else?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at intentional10, spelled out TEN. And we also have a Facebook community, like a Facebook group, a private group.
Okay.
And I put a lot of, specific content for our group there. So people can join the Intentional 10 community Facebook group. And then I have a blog and a website. So you can always subscribe to that. It's just intentional10.com. And always you can follow along on my podcast. So if you're really somebody who doesn't want to write, then the podcast is that audio version. You can listen in. I'll share an inspiration. I usually have a quote or something to kind of guide the inspiration. And there's a little reflection at the end. So if you really don't want to write, you can always just listen along to the podcast. It's just the Intentional 10 podcast. And it's on all of the various podcast platforms.
I like that. I appreciate that information. I guess when, reaching out to you, maybe they want to join your Facebook private group, or even maybe reach out to you through your website. What sets you apart from others that maybe relatively do this or don't do this?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different self-care, self-help, different people out there. There's a lot of that out there, but I am specific about the journaling and the mindfulness as the foundation, and then there's a lot more from that. So if you want to just be open, raw, and real, that's what I'm doing. As I told you guys earlier, I share my story. I am not here to tell people that if you follow these 10 steps, your life is going to be perfect. I keep it real that I'm not perfect either. There are days where I'm struggling with my own emotions, but it's a journey, and I'm here to take the journey with other people. So I think I just keep it open and real. And I personally love my podcast format because it's just so easy to plug in your earbuds and go. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to write anything. You can kind of stay connected and inspired with the audio version. So we've got all the versions available for you.
I like that. And I'm smiling because, I think a lot of people do deal with depression, anxiety when we're in our current situation, more so in this current situation because of isolation, or they're missing their family, or So maybe somebody has dealt with a loss in this current situation. I think a lot of
Absolutely.
people use medication, or they're seeking something, and just maybe this could be something that they could try that could help, because it helped you, right? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you're on medication, but like, it's just a different form of different form of ways, well, different form to find something that helps you deal with your current lifestyle or your current life situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not here to offer medical advice to anybody if they need medication or whatever. I actually did go on medication for a little while when I went through my low point, but it didn't help me at all. So I was looking for something else to get myself back on track, and it worked really well for me. And I've seen it also work well for my husband, and for the people who've joined along on the journey. Everybody has talked about, their own specific experiences and how it gets you through it. So yeah, it's a nice supplement, or it can be everything, whatever it is to you.
No, and it's fair. And not to keep it longer, what I'm getting from you is I find a lot of people lack communication. And when you mention that you and your husband wake up and you have coffee and you sit down and you write in your journal, now you are being open. There's nothing really hidden to a certain extent if you guys want to be. And you share that and you switch it over. So your husband now gets to know what you want, what you're gratitude for, what you're thinking, and you get to see that too. So it kind of now you have to talk to each other. You now have to kind of communicate to a certain way and get raw. So
Mm-hmm.
I respect that 100%. I think a lot of people may need, not a lot of people may, a lot of people are going to need that kind of concept and that kind of togetherness. Is that fair to say? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously found a lot of benefit from it. And even if, you're not married, sometimes it just helps you sort out whatever's in your own head, so that then you can communicate with your friends, your roommates, your family, in a positive way, or in just an open way. Because sometimes you just can't even figure out what you're thinking to be able to say it.
Articulate. Yeah, I get it.
Right, right.
And it's fair. And I want to say, I appreciate you reaching out to me. I really enjoy this conversation because, again, having this is it's another platform or another idea of how to be healthy. And I think a lot of people don't realize that this is an option. I didn't realize it. I didn't know journaling could help, but listening to you talk and understanding how it helped you and what process you went through, it makes a lot of sense. So if anybody wants to do this more, please reach out to Christina. She has a great platform, the Facebook group. I 100% respect her. And I want to say thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed chatting.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today on our weekly episode of Health Your Way podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share with others, and please feel free to comment below and ask any questions on topics we discussed, as well as future topics you'd like to hear about. Have a happy and healthy week, and be sure to tune in next week for the next episode on a Health Your Way podcast.